Welcome to Mallett and Michelle on Dripping Springs, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and Steve Mallett. Hey, Steve, I bet you never knew that you were going to learn so much about doing laundry over the last couple of weeks.
I have learned more about laundry than I ever cared to know.
I think we had an
couple weeks.
hour conversation yesterday about spray tans.
We did, which I never even knew was a thing.
Spray tans on white towels. It's, it's all in relation to your new short-term rental that you have.
The Holly House.
The Holly House.
Driftwood at
yeah,
the cottages.
look at it on Airbnb or VBRO,
Verbo. Yeah. And Michelle Lewis, whose business motto is the best defense is a good offense.
Oh.
Whenever anybody messes with you in the business world, you go at them with sticks and bats.
I'm a master spyer. That's the other thing.
You are good. You're good at collecting intel. Now we're talking war terms here, but you're good at collecting intel. And then when it comes down to time to attack, you're like all in. Nuclear missiles, the whole bit, man. B-52s, the whole thing. You
my
just
stepfather,
go right at 'em.
my late stepfather, CIA agent, he would be very proud. It's probably how I was raised.
I actually think it's a great business motto, honestly. It's like because there's a lot of weak people out there that still sticking with the war terms that probe to see where your weak spots are. And if you push back on them really hard, they always back off. Those weak people always back off. Where you get in trouble is when somebody probes you that's like a triple black belt and then you get in their face. That's when you'll get in trouble.
But I still don't back down.
No, you don't.
But I can probably be as annoying as waterboarding too. So waterboarding.
Yeah, waterboarding. Yes. Yeah.
I can't speak, but you know, along with the
let's talk about our guest.
Oh yeah, Elaine Brown.
Elaine Brown, who's running for
it's the mental health judge.
She's running for judge in Hayes County
in the mental health court. In the mental health court, yeah. And
I'm not sure how different that is from the criminal court, but we're going to find out.
We're going to ask her lots of questions. Early voting has started at Roger Hanks and Patriots Hall. I waited an hour in line.
Hour and a half.
Yeah, give or take.
At Roger Hanks.
It's worth it. It's. There's
please,
a lot riding on this
everybody.
election. So
it's a
absolutely.
big election.
But what I was saying is back to the sheets and the laundry.
Yeah.
Your wife, speaking of, has a black belt in folding.
She does.
Fitted sheets.
She's not proud of it. Like she doesn't display that, but she really takes care to do those. There's no wrinkles. They're square.
It does. There takes a lot to impress me.
They stack really nicely.
That's quality sheet folding right there.
Yeah.
I'm telling. I want a video. Can you?
You know what? I've been trying to get her to let me do a video of her that I could post on Instagram. I said, "Babe, we'd get 1 million views on it." She's like, "No, I don't really."
No,
care.
come on, Holly, please. If only for me. Don't do it for Steve's social media.
You could change the world, babe. You could change the world. Fitted sheets are not meant to be folded, and somehow you know how to do it.
This is why when I do sheets, I don't fold them. I just stick them right back on the bed they came off of. So
mine end up on the chair.
What do you have to talk about today, Steve?
Well, I wanted a couple of people asked me in the last few weeks about the podcast when we release our new episodes. And the schedule is we release a new episode every Tuesday morning at 5 a.m. And those are generally recorded the week before. So that's why sometimes we talk about by the time this happens, this bit. And you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Stitcher and Google Podcasts.
But then I also promote it on the same day. And so if you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, even Mallett and Michelle, but then I put it on the Dripping Springs Neighbors and I post it in the comments.
Right. So you can click in a link and listen to it on our website if you're not that tech savvy and don't want to go onto Apple Podcasts.
Or go to Pigpen, and right when you walk in the door, to the left, you look up. We donated a bulletin board, and there's cards and QR code.
QR code takes you right to the newest episode. So, but thanks everybody for listening. This has been so much fun for us to do, and we really appreciate that you guys tune in every week.
Oh, absolutely! And you give me a reprieve from Steve. It's a reprieve from Steve on Tuesdays.
This is the fun part of our week, isn't it?
It is my favorite part of the week.
It is mine too. Real estate. Let's talk about real estate real quick. Not a real estate show, everybody, but real estate stuff. there's an article in realtor.com that just came out about 2 weeks ago about the top 10 places in the U.S. where home prices have dropped the most since June of this year.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that? 5 months.
Yeah,
roughly.
give or take. Uh-huh.
And in the top 10, there's a couple of Charleston, Ogden, Utah, Denver, Las Vegas, which was just crippled last time we had a real estate bubble that burst. But the top three, losing 8.9%, is number 3, Palm Bay, Florida. Number 2 is Phoenix, which was also decimated during the last real estate downturn at 9.9%. So in 5 months, they went down almost 10%. Guess what number 1 is?
Austin.
Number 1, the number 1 city in the U.S. that lost the most home value in this 5 months since June is Austin at 10.3%.
I'm curious what the opposite effect is. How much in 5 months did it go up when we were in that, like what I know we didn't like to call it a bubble. It was an inflated, right?
Yeah.
System at that time, but let's just, for all intents and purposes, we'll call it a bubble. How high?
I can actually tell you. So since September, so this was these facts were as of the end of September this year. As of compared year over year at the end of September 2021, we're still up 2.2%, but we're down 10%, in this last 5 month period. So your house is worth roughly now about what it was in September 2021. But remember, we had 6 more months of prices going up from there.
Well, that was that was insanity.
10%.
That was absolutely insanity.
It was. I didn't actually realize. I mean, I knew those were good times, but the not contradiction, but the how opposite this market is compared to that market blows my mind. I thought that we would have a gradual slowing. It was somebody turned the light switch off.
Well, it occurs to me also, it's the reason why you use an experienced agent that knows the market, that is able to really kind of evaluate what the market is doing and where the market is going. And you know
don't look further than like 60 days back. If you're pulling prices from 180 days ago, guess what? Your pricing's off. It's way off.
If you're pulling off of some Zillow or Open Door or whatever, those aren't true numbers, right? They're not true numbers.
And they go back very, very far.
Well, and speaking of e-commerce, Steve, is there anything that you will not order online?
You and I have talked about this before. I was actually racking my brain thinking what I would not buy online, and I couldn't come up with anything.
Is everything you're wearing today from
top
online?
To bottom, Michelle? I have 2 shirts on, both ordered online, pants ordered online from Huckberry, shoes from Stitch Fix.
Do the giraffes match the giraffes?
Yes. I have everything color coded in there, and Mommy comes over and puts a little sticker in there. No, I even my car I have now, I had driven an SQ5 and I really liked it, but the one I ordered, I got it from San Antonio, and I just went online, found it, and connected with the salesperson and said, that's the one I want. I'm driving down Saturday and bought it.
I have of the late become a real online shopper, which is
haven't we all?
Well, yeah, but like especially doing the short-term rental stuff. It was easier because we didn't have to go pick it up, and it was nicer to have FedEx or UPS or Amazon.
20 boxes a day delivered to the porch.
Shout out to Jose, our Amazon driver, because we've become good friends with him. But I heard that in 2023, Amazon Prime TV is going to air an NFL game on Black Friday, which is the largest retail day ever, right? And it's interesting that Amazon, which is one of the largest online retailer, is going to be playing a game, encouraging people to sit at home and watch a game versus going out and shopping. But so here's the contradiction, right? They don't want you in the store. They want you. I wonder if there's going to be online ads popping up.
That's what I'm wondering too. Are they going to have like things pop up? Are the back of the benches on the sideline going to have like, plasma TV, $2.99 right now.
Maybe it's very reminiscent of the 1950s when you'd be watching, I don't know what was around then, All My Children or Young and the Restless soap opera. Instead of,
I'm surprised you know that.
well, but instead of like doing a hard break or a hard cut in off of the program, the stars of the show would be promoting the soap or whatever it is that they're trying to, or cigarettes within the show, and then just go right into the show. It's commerce inside of entertainment. You see that a lot in movies where you'll see product placement, Cokes and whatever.
Well, like, what was that robot movie that Will Smith was in? No, not Wall-E. Was it iRobot? I think it was iRobot. But all the cars in there were Audis.
Oh,
it was sponsored by.
Well,
Audi.
I'm sure. But do you know like when the first commercial was? Like, if you had to guess when the first actual commercial happened.
I would say in the 60s, early 70s.
Actually, it was in 1941, and it was between a game between the Dodgers and the Phillies. It was a watch commercial. I'm going to try to say this watch right.
Bulova. It was a Bulova watch.
Yeah, it's a Bulova watch. And it was only 10 seconds long, and it cost between $4 and $9 to create, and was seen about 4,000 people in New York.
$4 and $9?
Yep, $4 and $9.
And a Super Bowl commercial now, just for the spot, is like millions of dollars. And I'm sure they spend millions producing them too.
Millions and millions of dollars. But I think Instagram now has my number because they are now showing Amazon ads within my Instagram, and I can swipe, and then from right there I can push on it and shop now. So
I try to fight how technology impacts my daily life, but you just can't get away from it. When you're susceptible to an ad, it seems to know when to show up, when to be in your feed.
And now this whole metaverse, which I don't really understand.
You were just, we're just talking about ads and the Super Bowl. The Meta, the company that used to be Facebook, has launched, or a couple of years ago, I think last year, launched Horizon Worlds, which is their metaverse world. It's an online world that you have to buy those special goggles, glasses to get into. And it's failing miserably.
Well, I mean,
but they ran an ad.
What's their target audience? Like the guy that's living in his mom's basement, like, Ma, meatloaf.
It's funny that they quoted a guy who's a 41-year-old engineer, IT project manager in Maryland, bought a Quest 2, which is the goggles, and joined Horizon World early last year, hoping to find more social interaction.
What?
I know.
Hoping to find more social interaction.
That was his solution to not meeting enough people. He bought the goggles and went online. And he said, and it's on the first day he went to the main meeting space, not one person was there.
So wait, let me wrap my head around this. So
I got to finish this.
You put these glasses on and you go to a main.
Yes.
It's like a main meeting, and then from there.
Yes. So you can go into different worlds, but he said, I need to meet people, so I'm going to figure this out. And I read these words, and I was like, dude, I can figure it out for you. Put some clothes on and go walk outside. There's people out there. You can meet them. You can go have conversations with them. But there's different. So you go into the main meeting room, and then you can go, like, there's one of them is a comedy club. And then there's Hot Girl Summer Rooftop Pool Party.
Oh yeah. Because if you're a hot girl, you're going to go there.
This journalist that wrote this article went there, and there were no women in the room. Well, it was all guys.
That's a given.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And
what is it called? Hot Girl
Summer Rooftop Pool Party.
Yeah, I can see some hot girl saying, that's where there are my
people.
If
there is a hot girl there, it's a 12-year-old that's skipping school, sitting someplace, pretending to be a hot girl summer. And there's Murder Village. And this quote says...
now I'm interested.
Now you're interested. And in Murder Village, there is often no one to kill.
Okay,
apparently you can go in there and kill people. So I obviously kill their avatars, but it's ridiculous. Are we old and stodgy? But I just don't.
Yes.
Well, apparently the avatars that you have, one of the reasons people don't like it is they don't have legs. So they just float around this universe. But I don't know where this is going.
Maybe it depends on what day of the week it is that I'll visit Murder Village.
Yeah.
But and maybe more than now than ever, we need a mental health court and need to pay attention of who's
isn't
in
that the
charge.
truth?
Because
Jeez.
maybe most of these people need to visit this.
It is kind of
therapist.
Yeah, it's sketchy how comfortable we are entering this digital world where you can lose track of reality.
Well, what I want to know is, so you meet somebody in this virtual world, what is going on in your real life world? And it sound a little Matrixy, like a little like the movie Matrix, because they were in these alternate universes, but the premise of the movie, wasn't it, where like they're sitting there and they're being sucked, their energy.
They're basically being kept alive by a giant
alien, right?
Well, it's a machine created by aliens I think the premise is that whatever they produce feeds this but alien community.
How do you feed your real body? Like, so if you have to go to the restroom and you're in Murder World, if you're in Murder World and you have to pee, is there a bathroom off to the side? And then are you like taking your glasses off and actually going to the restroom and washing your hands and grabbing a bowl of ramen?
I don't eat. Yeah, I'm sure there's a ramen world. But remember back when this whole thing came out, all these companies were buying metaverse real estate.
I do. I remember that.
Louis Vuitton bought some, and it wasn't like they paid, $999 for a spot. They were spending thousands and thousands of dollars. And now, according to this article, only 9% of the worlds built by creators are ever visited by at least 50 people. Most are never visited at all. And then I love this quote this is from somebody that at the company that wrote a report about how it's failing. An empty world is a sad world. Well, isn't that the truth?
Well, I'm going to start a Mallett and Michelle world, and they can come visit, and then I'm going to see if they have legs or not. And if they have visited hot girl summer rooftop bar
or murder room.
I'm not going to judge them if they visited Murder Room.
Oh, well,
is it Murder Village or is it Murder Room?
I don't even remember.
I'm now calling it Murder Village.
Yeah. We've all been there. So, hey, Elaine Brown, let's take a little break and get her in here. I'm excited to talk.
I'm looking forward to listening to what she has to say.
Yeah,
sure.
Me too. Hang on, sit tight. We'll be right back.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallett Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at mallettintegrityteam.com. And now here's Steve and Michelle.
Welcome back. We are here with Elaine Brown. She is running for Hays County Court at Law No.3, also known as the Mental Health Court. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome to the show, Elaine.
Thank you.
What brought you to Dripping Springs?
We moved here in 2010, and one of the reasons that we moved here was because we wanted a small town feel, and also the schools. We really checked out the schools, and they were really excellent, and that's one of the reasons that we moved our 3 daughters here.
How old were your daughters when you moved here?
They were 3, 9, and 16.
Oh, my gosh.
And you have 5 kids.
We have
total.
5. We have 2
Holy
older
cow.
boys.
Wow. Boy, that's a household.
Especially with those 3 girls.
How did you get your 16-year-old to move? That's a hard age to pick up and move to a new community.
She didn't talk to me for 2 weeks.
That's actually not bad. 2 weeks is not bad. I would have expected that to be 2 years.
It was great. It only took her 2 weeks, and she made friends and was happy as can be. And she graduated from Dripping Springs High School and said it was the best thing that ever happened.
Oh,
so she was really happy.
Yeah. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little town south of Lubbock called Brownfield, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
It had about 12,000 people at that time in it, and we moved there when I was about 7, almost 7.
Okay. So where were you born?
Houston.
Oh,
well,
so you're a lifelong Texan.
Yes, we lived for 2 years in Connecticut when I was little. My dad worked for Texaco, and he got transferred to Houston from Midland. And that's why I was born in Houston. And then he got transferred to New York City. So he wasn't real happy about that. He wanted to come back to Texas. So we got back here a couple of years after that.
I think that a lot of Texans say that. Get back here as fast as you can.
When I was reading your bio, one of my coworker, Cedric, he's all about sports, and he said, "Ooh, that's where Cheryl Swoops was from." So
Brownsville?
yes, no
Brownfield.
Brownfield. Okay.
Brownsville's down in the valley.
Yeah.
Whatever. Brown this, brown that.
So yeah, he's like, oh yeah, I was like, he's a little walking encyclopedia for ESPN.
He is. Yeah, he knows his stuff.
Cheryl Swoops is a little younger than I am, but I did know her brother. Her older brother and I were in school together.
Oh,
Educate me. I don't know who Cheryl Swoops is.
you don't know who the Swoops are?
I don't know who the Swoops are. I'm sure there are listeners right now going, Michelle, tell us who the Swoops are.
I'm gonna look it up for you, okay? And then you're gonna okay, continue, and I'm gonna look it up for you. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. And Elaine, what are you doing now? What you actually on your work resume here that you sent us? You look like a very busy person. So what are you doing now?
Well, I'm practicing law, and I still have a few mental health clients that I see. So I kind of balance that. But I do a lot of family law. I do some wills, and keeps me busy.
Yeah, I bet it does. And you're a counselor, a licensed professional counselor?
I am a licensed professional counselor.
Okay.
Have been since 2015.
Are you still seeing, are they patients, clients?
Yes, I have a
Patients?
few. I've kind of dialed back a little bit, but I do have a few that I still see.
Even in the 7 years that you've been a therapist, have you seen such a change in our adolescents, or just in our climate, or the clientele,
The things people are dealing
the
with?
things people are, social media. We were talking about social media before you got here, and
Yes, I have definitely seen some changes, especially in the last few years. And I've been inundated with calls, honestly, about people who are seeking counseling. And it's very frustrating for many people because there are not enough therapists now to go around for the people that really need to talk to someone. And I've actually been in the mental health field since about 2010. But I didn't get fully licensed until 2015. But I was what we call a licensed professional intern before then. And so I worked with a lot of people in different areas. One of them was the mental health DD, which they've changed it from MHMR to disability. And so now I have a little different perspective of that too. And I really see a need for us to have some clinics that will deal with people who can be in an outpatient basis, but for whatever reason aren't getting the help they need. We really need to put more emphasis on getting clinics that can help people who either don't have insurance or who are unable to pay for their health care.
What kind of stuff are you seeing people deal with though now that was different than 5 years ago? Like what kind of, is it situational? Is it money? I mean, what kind of stuff is bothering
And do
people?
you see many podcasters in this?
Sign me up.
Depression is the main thing that I've seen, and anxiety. Increases in anxiety and depression since the COVID-19
the pandemic.
incidents and pandemic have really increased. And those happen to be two of my specialties that I actually work with a lot, and depression and anxiety. So I've seen a big increase in that. We've also seen a big increase in, unfortunately, divorce. And I think those kind of interplay together too, that people are, when they're suffering from a mental health crisis, whether it's depression or anxiety, it causes family problems sometimes too. So we've seen an increase in that as well.
Spending too much time in closing encounters.
Well,
with
yeah,
some-
we saw that.
I
early on in
almost
the pandemic.
visited Murder Village during COVID. It was during Snowmageddon,
Yeah,
actually.
that's right.
Well, there is a component to that because we do need social interaction. Human beings generally tend to be social creatures. And when we're not able to get out and do the things that we normally do, it really does increase our dissatisfaction.
Yeah, it wasn't talked about a lot, but the number of suicides skyrocketed
It did,
during the pandemic. I mean, it was like 3 times the normal rate, wasn't it?
It was very high.
It was strange after a while, when you were when you were waiting in line to go to the grocery store, you couldn't see people's facial expressions. You were around the same people consistently over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden, you got this little window where the world kind of opened up, just a little peek, and then it shut down again. But when it opened up, it was like you almost felt like you were doing something wrong, socializing with people, or being around people outside your circle.
And then probably this depression and anxiety. Sometimes you would want to be friendly to somebody and they would not be friendly back to you, and you'd take it personally when really what they're scared for their life. They're like, oh, that person might breathe on me. So there's all that going on too.
I'm a hugger too. So, seeing people and having, seeing people and not being able to hug them, that was kind of strange, that lack of emotional or physical kind of connection.
I wonder, do you think some of the divorce cases came about because during that pandemic, a lot of us got the feeling that, when you're going through your normal life and you're super busy, you feel like life's going to go on forever, but then you're faced with this possibility you might get sick and die from this disease that some people said, my life's too short to just be stuck in this rut. Mm-hmm. And they said, I've got to change something. Is there some basis for that?
Some truth to that?
Well, it's certainly possible. I mean, I don't know.
What was the reason for the divorces then? Just people just unhappy being with their spouse 24 hours a day?
Well, there's a lot of different reasons that people get divorced, of course. So I don't know that I can speak to every person's reason for that during the pandemic. But I do think that togetherness probably played some role in that. And as you say, not being able to get out and do your normal life and do the normal things that you do, it probably bred some dissatisfaction with life, kind of like what you touched on a little bit too. And that may have increased people's desire to get out of marriages maybe that weren't working as well as they'd like them to.
I think this whole work from home movement also is going to really come back and bite us in the butt because of the socialization issues that you're meant to kind of socialize with your coworkers and have that little water cooler moment.
Kids under 30 that graduated in the last 6 or 7 years, a lot of them don't ever want to go work in an office. We were just at a thing yesterday.
Yeah, and they were saying that they're seeing the younger, the 20-something-year-olds where the turnover, they're job hopping, and they're there 5 to 9 months.
They're never leaving their home office. They will have 7 jobs in 7 years and never work any place but in their home office, which I think that's terrible. That's got to lead to some. I would think that would make me depressed.
Some
being able to talk to people.
Yeah. Some people do work well alone, and a lot of people don't work well alone.
I think Michelle hit it right, though. I think some of those people that don't do it well might hide it for a while, and then it's going to blow up.
Well, Todd and I, we've talked about this before right at the very beginning. We were working from home for a couple of weeks. And I swear if I had to hear him tippy-tap on those keyboards one more time, I was going to visit Murder Village again. Yeah. But then Steve and I both, we were like, we have got to get back into the office because I feel like being in a brick and mortar outside of my home, I was more productive. I felt like I was more in work mode where I wasn't doing laundry and having the dishes and I'd have to actually dress for work.
There's too many distractions at the house.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Elaine, now you're running for this judgeship of the county court at law number 3. So what made you want to do that?
Well, one of the reasons that I decided to run was because I have the experience of being an attorney for over 30 years. And I also have that additional piece of having the mental health provider experience as well. And this particular court is designated as the mental health court for Hays County. And I really think it's so important for Hays County to have a successful mental health court. And one of the things that the Hays County Courts at Law do is they do mental commitments. They work with juveniles. They do probate law. They do some criminal, both Class A and Class B misdemeanors. And what we want to do with the mental health court is have a diversion. In other words, if somebody is in a jail situation, but they're not really there because they've done something terribly wrong, they're there maybe because they were arrested for criminal trespass, because they're in the midst of an episode.
Or they're on the spectrum.
Or they're on the spectrum. Or they have some other situation going on, mental health issue going on. Instead of keeping them in jail where they oftentimes do not get the help they need. They do not get the proper treatment or proper medication. The diversion court allows us to put them in a different treatment facility. And hopefully then with the addition of the judge supervising them, they may be more compliant with their medication and with their therapy sessions. And we can hopefully return them back to society in such a way that they're productive again and they're able to be with their families and they're not in jail.
When you're saying that in order to place them in a treatment facility, are these state-run treatment facilities, or is it also like if somebody had the means, they could place that person in private facilities? Or is it all just state-run hospital mental health hospitals?
Yeah, is that so? They're in jail or they're back with their families. Is there some halfway place there, or are they getting the treatment in jail, or is the jail releasing them to some other facility? And what does that look like if that's possible?
Those are good questions. What happens a lot of times is that unfortunately our state-run facilities are at capacity or over capacity a lot of the time. So we really don't have enough state-run facilities that can be inpatient. So if they need that additional care of inpatient care and the family is unable to afford it, then sometimes that creates a real problem and we have to find solutions for that. And it may be that they are in a more intensive outpatient program until such time as a bed opens up or until such time as their treatment is effective and they no longer need a bed in an inpatient facility. And if the family can afford to put them into an inpatient facility, there are adequate facilities for people who can pay.
Around Texas.
Exactly. But if they cannot pay, that's where we run into issues a lot of times.
Are you seeing some of these people that should be placed in facilities just released back onto the streets and families not able to help or not able to afford it? And therefore, our homeless population is kind of rampant with people that just weren't able to get the help that they needed?
Absolutely. That is one of the biggest problems with the homeless population is oftentimes they have substance abuse or mental health problems or both. And their families have tried oftentimes to get them the help they need unsuccessfully. And they oftentimes have circulated through our jail system. They've been picked up for something or other by the police. They go into the jail system. At some point, they're released back, and then the cycle just continues and continues.
So when they go into jail, obviously they have to get clean from whatever they're on. But the cycle is, say they go into jail for 6 months, they're not drinking or taking drugs, and then as soon as they get out, they fall right back into it.
But sometimes it's not even the substance abuse. It's just like they're bipolar, right? Or they're on the spectrum. And so the medications that they are taking on a daily basis just to be able to function at some normalcy, whatever that is, those are taken away. They don't have access to the doctors or the medications, and it's not monitored, right?
Unfortunately, that is correct. And oftentimes in the jail population, they have access to certain drugs. Unfortunately, those filter into prisons and jails. It's my understanding anyway that they oftentimes have some access to that even when they're in jail. But you are correct. Some of them must go through detox in jail, and they oftentimes don't do that under medical supervision. But those who are having mental health problems oftentimes have a substance abuse issue along with that because they're trying to self-medicate. And if they have been prescribed a medication when they were out in public and not in jail, then sometimes they're not getting that medication or they're not getting the appropriate medication. They may give them something that's not working as well as what they were on before. And when you're dealing with bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, the type of medicine that person is on is so important. It's important for them to continue the medications that actually work for them.
Outside of the court system, are there advocates that go in and help these people? I mean, are there programs out there that, like, CASA for the younger population? Is there something equivalent for these adults that are running into this? No, not really. Unfortunately, there are not, at least in Hays County, many options for nonprofit
people or agencies working with these particular individuals. One of the biggest complaints that some individuals have made to me personally is that when someone is in the jail, they are so oftentimes not getting treatment by the appropriate medical professionals, and especially with regard to mental health.
Yeah.
And so we really could use some of that. And that is one of the things that I would strive to do, is make sure that we have support in the community as well as in the court system to make sure that these individuals have options and support, because support is so important when you have a mental health issue.
Is this a new position within Hays County, the mental health court? Is this something that was just created over the last couple of years, or how did this come about?
Yes, I believe that they actually created it in 2019, right before COVID hit. The judge that was actually in that position didn't get elected in 2020. So nothing really happened until just recently. They announced that they have some funding and that they're going to put some people in positions to hopefully make it a reality.
So the person that's in office currently that you're running against was appointed, not elected.
Is that
correct? And Steve, I know you had some questions in regards to the judicial system about why we are electing judges on party lines.
I did, yeah. So you're running as a Democrat for this county court.
That's correct.
Why? I mean, if the law is blind, why is that a Democrat or a Republican position? Why isn't that just a judgeship? Easy for you to say.
Well, there have been many people who've asked that same question over the years, and I'm one of them actually, because, the law is the law, and you have to follow the law regardless of what party you run under. But I think the answer is it's kind of always been that way in Texas. And, when things have always been a certain way, we're reluctant to change them a lot of the time. And so that's kind of what's happened. And when you're running for judge, a lot of people don't pay attention to judicial races. They don't know much about the people who are running for those particular spots. And so I think that the people who are running in the judicial races, that is hard to say.
Yes.
If you're running for judge, it is hard to get people excited. And so sometimes having a party behind you does help a little bit to get that information out there.
So you had a choice, Republican or Democrat. Why did you choose to go as a Democrat?
Well, I have to say that currently the Democratic Party's values more closely align with what I believe in personally. I have been a Republican in the past, have voted that way. I generally consider myself more of an independent than anything, because I've always had a mind of my own, so to speak. And
as we all should.
And so I've always been more of an independent, but lately I've been much more Democrat in my value system.
How do you talk to someone, much like myself, who traditionally has voted straight party, and I'm trying to educate myself on certain races? How would you convince someone to not vote straight party and kind of veer off? I think this position personally, because it has touched my family personally, I think this position is very important, and I think this is not a position that should not be talked about. I think it should be talked about in our community. And so how are you going to convince someone like me to vote for someone like you, where I would traditionally vote straight party on another?
Well, it's kind of like we were just saying a moment ago. And judicial positions, even though they are partisan, just by the way the Texas sets the party system up for judicial races, I think it is important to know the person. It is important to know their qualifications. It is important to know what they're going to bring to a particular position. And that's what I've been trying to educate people on, is that this court can be successful if it has a judge who is invested, who is really concerned about making it a success for Hays County and making some changes in Hays County.
And you have the professional background also, in my opinion, to just kind of sit on this in this court being a therapist, being a family law. And so you've had many of these same people sit in the chair across from you and counsel them.
I certainly have. And I have the experience legally too, where I have represented juveniles. I've represented criminal defendants. I've been a prosecutor for the municipal court in Victoria. I have a wide, broad expanse of different legal experience that I think also uniquely qualifies me in addition to having the mental health.
Elaine, one of the questions I wrote down, the political climate in this country right now, obviously we're completely fractured, and there's, one side of the country's on one side and there's a giant chasm, and the other half of the country's on the other side. What can we do as a community to get back together where we can talk and
have conscious
friends,
conversations?
Like we're doing right now. We're having a civil conversation, and obviously we have some different beliefs, but I completely respect you. I think you're well qualified for the job. How can we get back to that, being civil with each other? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that is a huge issue. And having run this race, I've kind of really experienced that personally more than I ever did before. And I think that a lot of it's just like you said, being civil and just being able to talk about our belief system. I don't think we're that far apart oftentimes, but I think the parties sometimes try to almost drive us apart in a way.
That's interesting.
And I have many friends who are Republicans, good friends who are Republicans, and they are good people and they do care about others, just like you said. But I think it's almost like we have there's divisions in the parties, there's divisions among individuals who subscribe to a particular party. And it's almost like they're like, oh, well, you have the wrong letter behind your name. And they won't even give you an opportunity to find out who you are or what you're about or what you believe. And that I think is unfortunate. And I think if we can open our minds to the person versus just saying, oh, well, you have the wrong letter behind your name, or I can't like you because you think differently.
That's a terrible thing.
But I also think that there is a preconceived notion in the sense that because you have one particular letter behind your name, is that you're getting pressure from the party to react and to behave a certain way. And now, granted, as being a judge, a mental health judge, I feel like this position, you're not going to get as much pressure. You're more in a community, a servant position, right? Versus you're not making law, you're not in a legislative position, and you don't have this whole party breathing down your neck, and you're not giving press conferences left and right. You don't have to put on a show, right? You're going to put that robe on. You're going to do the best dang job that you can do for your community, because you're living in this community too. Like you said earlier, you're raising your kids here.
Absolutely. And I think that is really important, in that in a judge's role, you're not, especially the court that I'm running for, you're not going to be making policy. You're not going to be changing laws. You have to follow the laws. And I just say, look, I want to have justice with compassion.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like that. Yeah. You got to write that down.
That's we just got the title.
Yeah. Elaine, rehabilitate versus incarceration. So how, you're going to case by case, obviously, but how are you going to decide that somebody should be locked up and, because they're a danger to society, or how can they be rehabilitated, and what's that process? Because the reason I'm asking that is I know we have some listeners that are probably like, there are people that are being released on the streets and they're dangerous, and I'm trying to protect my family. So how are you going to make the decision, this person needs to stay locked up and this person can be rehabilitated?
Well, that's a really good question, too. And one of the important things is the county courts at law only deal with misdemeanors.
Okay.
So these aren't generally violent criminals.
Like misdemeanors would be like what? Like trespassing?
Driving without a license, sometimes minor assaults, but not to where you injure someone critically.
Okay.
It could be some domestic violence issues. And that's something that I feel very strongly about, too, because I've worked with many women who were victims of domestic abuse. And so obviously I'd want to be very careful about those kinds of situations. I think you have to know a little bit about mental health to truly evaluate where someone is and where they can be as far as their mental health goes. There are some people who need to be in a bed, as we said, in an inpatient facility because they're either a danger to themselves or they're a danger to someone else. And that's a little bit of a different issue sometimes because that falls under mental commitments, which is actually a civil suit that's brought by the state to protect the person and to protect our community. So sometimes there's been some issues along those lines too, of we're taking away someone's liberty, but we're also protecting people at the same time. So we have a balancing act that has to go on there, and we have to balance those different interests. So I think it is important to be able to read the information that you receive, understand it, ask questions, have family input. Family support is extremely important when someone has a mental health issue. And so it's important to get that family's input as well in evaluating whether or not you think someone can be successful in the program.
I want you to walk me through, and you may or may not know this question, but you've been practicing law for some time now. But walk me through a case goes before a judge. Do they get a folder with their history, or how are you?
How do you make those decisions?
Yeah,
how
as
do you
a judge,
determine the facts of the case?
Are you just handing the judge? Handed a folder, and you're just learning about that person right then, or do you do any type of work prior or research prior or?
Well, it depends greatly on the case.
Okay.
Sometimes people have a lot of prior history, and the judge will have access to all of that. You're asking about folders. Well, computers have kind of replaced folders.
You get emailed a folder.
You get emailed a folder, yeah. But let's take a typical case you think that you're going to see consistently in this court, whether it's probably like a misdemeanor trespassing, an autistic adult. Right. And they haven't really had any type of adult offenses before. They've aged out of the juvenile system. They're 19, 20 years old. Mom can't control them because they're a little bit older, a little bit bigger. And now they're in their court because they've been trespassing in the neighbor's yard or something. And so how are you finding out about this John Doe person?
Well, that is the first issue, is how do we get them into the system? And it can be through the defense lawyer referring them over. It can be from the DA's office referring them over. It can even be from a family member saying, hey, look, I've got someone in my family who needs this particular help. And they are getting crosswise with the law, not because they're bad or trying to do bad things, but because they have these other issues. And when we're dealing with something that is, as you were saying, an autistic issue, a lot of it depends on how severe that autism is and to what we can do and what programs would be appropriate for that individual. But it's really important to have a lot of community support and community input into these programs to make them successful. You have to have the different pieces of the puzzle, or it's just not going to work.
Are you as a judge able to ask questions of the family, or does everything have to go through their attorney or through the DA? Are you able to call up, grandma and say, okay, I know that you raised him for a bit. Are you able to do that as a judge on the bench, or?
Well, it would probably be more appropriate to have them come into the courtroom.
Okay.
And part of the program would be to encourage family members to be in court with the individual who is before the judge. And then the judge can certainly ask any questions of the family members who are present and be involved in that decision-making process.
And then that all becomes on record. And then if they're ever in your court again, you're able to pull that up and see that, okay.
Well, and the program works. It's usually a 12-month program if they're actually qualified for that program and they want to go into it. It's a voluntary program. They don't have to. They don't have to go through the mental health program. But if they want to do that, then it's a 12-month program generally.
This is outpatient, right?
And it's outpatient, yes. And generally.
And what if they don't want to? And what if they don't want to and they need to?
Well, and then that brings up a whole nother issue, and that is, are they going to be someone that we need to look at mental commitment for? Are they going to be a danger to themselves or to someone else? And that is oftentimes subjective. You know, what is going to be a danger to
and
yourself.
then that would look like they would go into a state hospital if they had to be committed like that.
If they don't have the funds for a private, yes, then there
seems to be some huge gaps. You know, we got people living on the streets in tents, obviously substance abuse issues, and then we have jail on the other end, and the options in between that seem very limited to me. Like,
and at capacity
in this country with this much money and this, and this compassion that we have, it seems like there should be a lot more steps between living on the street and being in jail.
It would be very helpful if we had more money for mental health treatment programs. And the state hospitals, I don't know if you've ever been to one of them.
I have.
Yes.
And it's actually,
yes. Terrifying.
It's terrifying, and it's one of the saddest places on earth. It's a very sad place.
It is not a pleasant place.
How
to
many
be.
state facilities, adult facilities, are in Texas? Do you know offhand?
Well, I know we have ASH, we have SASH, which is in San Antonio, and those are the two that I'm the most familiar with. And then there's one in Big Spring, and I'm not sure what else we might have in Texas.
So there's
a
as big as Texas is, there's not enough.
No, there's not enough.
There's not enough.
I bet you could increase it 10 times and still not have enough.
That's
there's people that should be in there that are waiting or could wait for long periods of time before they get in there, if they ever get in there.
Well, and now, like what you were saying earlier, is that you're seeing an increase in just your patients in depression and anxiety and things like that continue to be left untreated, right? I mean, it's the brave ones that go get help, right? The brave ones that reach out, or the parents or whatever that seek to go get help. And not to say that you're not brave if you haven't seeked out help, but that's going to compound. It's going to just keep getting worse and getting worse and getting worse. And now you're this anxiety-driven, depressed.
That's true. Going back to the money thing, Elaine, it blows my mind the priorities we have in this country
and the lack of resources
for where we spend our money. And this should be front and center. It's impacting almost everyone's daily life. And I don't think we spend a penny for every $100 that we should spend.
You and Holly, I fear for you guys running every morning downtown. And how many times have you been accosted by people that are on the streets out there? How many times? Just me going to a Hobby Lobby
that's
and
just
being
changed in the last couple of years. That in the homeless population in Austin, well, 2 years. The last 2 years, it's been insane. It has actually gotten a little bit better since they can't camp in public, but
they still
they're all still there. Well, in lesser numbers, but it does seem to me like the people that are camping illegally down there now, those are the ones that have the biggest issues. And so we've had some incidents. I had one really bad one that I was with 4 women running, and I was really worried that was going to be a bad situation, and I was trying to get them to go, but that was a bad situation.
Elaine, I know you personally, and I know that you want to leave this world better than you found it, right?
Absolutely.
You have 5 beautiful children and grandchildren.
2
grandchildren.
Twins.
And what do you think, or is your hope, you get seated on this bench, the impact that you leave? What do you hope the biggest impact that you leave sitting on this court?
Well, I would hope that it would be to improve the mental health situation that we have in Hays County. I can't affect the whole state of Texas, but one of the goals that I had was to be the gold standard for the state of Texas and Hays County, and I think we can do that. I think that if we'll put the resources and the effort into that, I think we can improve the lives of many, many different people. And I would be proud to say that I had even a small part in doing that, and would feel very good about that if I can make that happen.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I wish you the best of luck in that. Seriously, honestly, that's if we can make that happen, that would be a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. It's been such an honor to visit with you, and just I hope that people in our community stop you, before November 8th, stop you and talk to you, and don't think about just what is the letter behind your name. because this is a red little area throughout here, and Hayes County now is purple, right? And but I really encourage friends that are listening to stop Elaine, reach out to Elaine, and have this conversation with her. If you care about what's going on in Hayes County, if you have an opinion on the homeless population, if you have opinions on what's going on in Hayes County, call her.
Yep. I encourage that too. I want to ask you about, under your fun on this form that we ask you to fill out, you obviously like scary movies.
Yes.
And you visited London twice and went on 2 Jack the Ripper tours, and then the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park when you went on their ghost tour.
Is that the
The Shining.
Is that where The Shining
filmed?
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
The second one was filmed there.
Where did this love of scary movies come from?
Started when I was, I guess, probably a young teen, maybe even preteen. I started reading Stephen King and John Saul and some of those scary books, and for me, it was just an escape. It's fun to have something scary because then I know, but I'm really safe.
Oh, yeah.
so I enjoyed it. My husband is obsessed with the Jack the Ripper tour, so that's why we had to go on tour.
That sounds fun, though. I would do that.
I would probably do it too.
I want to go to London next year, so that's like...
We're going next year. We booked the trip. Well, we're going to spend 2 days there. We're going to Scotland. But
got to go take a Jack
too.
Ripper.
Did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Scotland's beautiful.
Yeah, I can't
really
wait.
is.
What was obviously, was that the best part of your London visit, or what was the other? What were the other highlights?
That was not the best part, but it was interesting. So
there you go.
It was what I really enjoyed was the theater there in London. It is just amazing. They are so much into theater, live theater. And we got to go to the Globe and see that, and just seeing all the history there is just amazing.
That's what I'm excited to go see. I want to try to time it at the same time that King George gets on the. I want to be a part of history. I know, all the lack of sleep that I have gotten watching the funeral and everything else, and so I
Is
do.
it King George?
You mean Charles?
I was going to say, I'm sorry, King Charles.
What did I miss?
Sorry, King Charles. I was thinking, I don't know why I said George. What am I?
don't know.
This is iced tea in here too.
Yeah, right. Sure.
You know what it is? It's I've been rewatching The Crown.
Oh,
That's why. I started all the way from the beginning, so I'm still on King George.
Oh, gotcha.
Sorry.
I thought you were going to wait for maybe one of the kids.
No. Okay, King Charles is going. Yeah.
Hey, before we go, Cheryl Swoops.
Oh wait. Okay, who's Cheryl Swoops?
Well, I can see it now. She's a WNBA player.
She was the first player to be signed to the WNBA.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Well, there you go.
There you go, Steve.
I learned something new every day from you. So.
Well, it's Cedric too.
Yeah,
Shout out to Cedric.
Elaine, if people want to find out about your campaign, where can they go to get information about you?
Okay. They can go to my website, which is ElaineBrownForJudge.com. I'm really good about responding if people have questions. I have answered some of them on my blog there. And they can also reach out to me on my email, which is ElaineForJudge@gmail.com. And happy to hear from anybody who has any questions. And I usually respond fairly quickly, as quickly as I can.
It's funny how sometimes people think, well, I'm not going to email her because I might be bothering her. But you're probably like us. We love getting emails. I love responding to people that have an interest in what we're doing. So you probably feel the same way.
Absolutely.
And I just have to say that your hair is very lovely.
Well, thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. I love your hair.
Well, Elaine, we wish you the best of luck in your campaign. And hopefully the people that are listening learn some things about you that they wouldn't have found out any other way. So best of luck.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for coming in.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallett Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at mallettintegrityteam.com.
Thanks for listening.
We'd love your comments or feedback. Email us at malletandmichelle@gmail.com.
You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Please subscribe and leave us a review.
New episodes released every week on Tuesday.